Well, they were playing by the school. Their play then turned to sort of malicious acts, and they entered the building, and $8,000 of damage later, they left the building. And
the State Patrol will be out in force this weekend. Officers like Clarence Nyland. After 22 years on the road, his eyes don't miss much. He says safety begins with wearing seatbelts.
If there was one thing you could do for yourself as a driver or a passenger of a car, it would be to wear your seatbelt. There's no question that they help.
Another thing to watch this weekend is your speed. But if you do get pulled over, pull well off the road.
Now that guy just did me a big service by doing that. Because he pulled way off to the right, which allows me to use my car to protect myself.
And the State Patrol is not just concerned for their own safety, but for yours as well. Last year in Minnesota, there were 663 crashes during the Memorial Day weekend. 431 people were injured. 8 people were killed. Nyland says driving the speed limit prevents accidents from happening.
She's 5 off.
okay.
So hold her down to 50 or 55 and you should be in good shape.
Then.
This facility is going to just allow for an explosion in interest, and I think it's going to create an environment where students are going to get a lot of excellent experience in the vocational trades. And these spaces are designed for these programs.
Services at the Moose Lake School included the performance of the national anthem by the high school band, a military honor guard, and a brief history of the nation's first Memorial Day.
130 years ago, families of soldiers who had given their lives in the great war between the states gathered to decorate the graves of those soldiers who had given their lives in the cause of freedom.
130 years later, families still gather on Memorial Day to remember those who have died during the wars that followed.
It's the memory of those that have been lost in battle, you know, and we include now all relatives, of course. You know, you just don't you remember them all, and it's just a fitting tribute to those. It's something we don't want to just let it fall away and not continue.
From the high school, participants marched to the Riverside Cemetery, following in the footsteps of past generations who've helped keep this annual Moose Lake tradition alive. At the cemetery, local scouts placed poppies at the grave sites marked with American flags. A military honor guard representing veterans from World War II to Vietnam launched a 21-gun salute.
Fire! Ready, aim, fire! Ready, aim, fire! Order, fire!
keep class size at some reasonable level, that also positively affects the environment that 95% of our special ed students are in. But let's
pieces that we've identified.
Thank you.
In the FY chart, it's just that the expenditures were in the budget, the revenues weren't. And like, as you say, those can only be used for their allocations and those sort of things. So I think on the last year or two, we've tried to be very conservative on the expenditures and come in underneath.
The composer of some of Chicago's early hits, including Color My World, is Tom Wegrin. He left the band just before they made it big.
I wanted to go on and learn classical music, learn all I could, and so that was my reason for leaving. There was nothing definite, nothing etched in stone as to what was going to be in the future.
The future he couldn't have foreseen began in 1966 when Wegrin and a handful of classical music students started a new group where they could feel free to improvise and explore new forms of music.
Cetera was playing accordion in a polka band. We were doing other things.
The Chicago Transit Authority became Chicago, jazz rock legends whose influence is strong even today.
As I was walking down the street one day.
Dozens of gold albums later, Chicago is playing to sold-out concerts around the world. But Wegrin says he wouldn't trade his decision for anything. While talking with a former bandmate by phone, they joked about their varied paths in life.
And he said, "Hey, you got to play Carnegie Hall, Tom." I said, "Well, what do you mean? You guys played Carnegie Hall. What's the deal?" He said, "Yeah, but you got to play Chopin and Beethoven and Ravel, and we had to play rock." It was like the grass is greener somewhere else. It was unbelievable.
Today, the grass is greener for Wegrin in Duluth, Minnesota. He's teaching and composing and still exploring new and different musical directions.
And now I'm dealing with a tough one. It's a family portrait, and I was going to capture all my 4 children and my wife, and they said, "If you want to write this piece, Papa, you have to include yourself." So this one's tough.
Tough, but within arm's reach for one of the architects of Chicago. In Duluth, Derek Hines, Channel 6 News.
We figure that there'll be a minimum of 80 jobs in our plant, and plus we have to increase our stripping in the pit. We have to uncover more ore. That will result in more jobs in the pit. Looking at new equipment purchases and other things like that in order to increase our pit production.
What they use is number one type scrap. For example, the car, because they're galvanizing it, no, it's tainted. It's not number one scrap.
This moves in the legislature about 8-9 years ago, which stipulated that if the federal government does cut some of the operating assistance, that the state would offset those losses. And fortunately for Duluth, we've never really been that dependent upon the federal government for operating expenses.
I fished this 20 years ago, and a lot of the big stuff we took out of here today was there 20 years ago when I used to fish the streams.
Folks from Iron River and the community decided that the Iron River needed cleaned up as well, so the radio station and Tri-State Business and a lot of the local businesses got together and said, let's just do it and get it over with.
During the winter, winds and currents change the contour of the bottom of the bay. Shoals develop in different areas each year. The Army Corps of Engineers sounds the harbor at the beginning of shipping season and determines where dredging needs to be done to keep the depth at least 27 feet.
And they need to have the depth for the full-size ships that they run today.
Each time the big shovel dips to the bottom, it scoops up tons of sand, which is dumped on a barge to be hauled to a dredge material storage site. Those dredge spoils are hot property.
Just about all the material pulled from the bottom of the bay is recycled. It's used as fill in construction projects ranging from the I-35 freeway to the base of the Blockneck Bridge.
If you look around this harbor, there's probably 2 million yards that has been recycled in this harbor through the years.
The American Engineering Testing Company examines the dredge materials for contaminants, and the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency must approve it for use in construction projects. Marine Tech will dredge 86,000 cubic yards of sand from 3 different sites in the harbor this summer and expects to use much of it in various construction projects. On Lake Superior Bay, Barbara Riles, Channel 6 News.
Actually, when we came here, we thought it would be pretty lame, but when we got here, we had a great time.
It's really cool so far since I've been up here. I don't know if they enjoy. I hope they enjoy the music. It's my first time up here, and people seem great so far.
It's so lively. We're having such a groovy time. It's the best.
Grab one for me.
Gentle, honey. Gentle, yellow wine. Yellow now?
Thank you for picking that up. Is Patrick here from Tamarack? Patrick is the winner. Thank you, Northwest Outlet Holiday Station.
We think that was particularly appropriate because it gave kids the opportunity to come face to face with someone who had done something that they were very angry about. And we think that that's a way of providing closure and providing an opportunity to move forward for those kids. They're going to live in this environment and in those schools and with those classmates for a lot of years there. Moving in now.
So then everybody won't be. How are plans going with that?
Oh, good, except that's what we're so busy about.
Yeah.
You know, we're moving people and things into new...
I would not be sitting in this chair today.
One child, one adult. Make a difference in a kid.
To continue to help children. What we see are a lot of needs of children that are going unmet. And what we would like to encourage people, inspire people to do is use the skills that they have and the competencies they've developed over their lives to make a difference for kids.
All right, great. And how long have you been with the Kids Plus program? And we are very supportive of the governor's campaign, One Child, One Adult. It is vital that every child have a significant adult in his or her life. And really, according to research, there needs to be somebody who's absolutely crazy about every kid. They're ready. Sit in the front with me.
When you got it landed in the water over on the left side. Well, anyway,
it's a marvelous piece of ground, and I think that when you add the sand traps and the greens and the fairways among all the trees, and it's just going to be a beautiful place to play golf, and it's going to be a fun golf course. We've designed the course. I think that people are going to enjoy playing.
Just don't talk about that. Oh, that might splash you. Plumber, get over here.
We ran a license check on the car and found out who the car belonged to, and then we just, as we ran the checks, the state computer showed a hit for a person that was missing as the owner of the car.
Is there any speculation on what actually happened? If it
No.
was how it happened, how he got into it?
No, at this point we don't know.
Mike Taporton's been blowing up balloons for a living for 9 years. The family business is something called the Predator Eyes Balloon. Birds see it, turn chicken, and fly off.
These eyes are the eyes of a predator bird. And all pest birds in nature have eyes that they are afraid of, and they relate back to inherent fear
So when Jack saw the Space Shuttle Discovery with all those woodpecker holes punched in its fuel tank, he thought NASA ought to know about this product, one he first discovered being used on farm fields in Japan 12 years ago. So he sent NASA a couple of them. He knew they'd keep the birds at bay because his balloons have aluminum eyes that move.
If this was stationary like this, it probably wouldn't scare the birds because it would merely be a distraction. But because there's movement to this, with the aluminum marlite eyes and tails, the pest bird thinks it's a predator's come into its area, so it's afraid of it.
And what do you know? Jack got a call from NASA, and today the shuttle was sent to the pad with Jack's frightening little guys flying proudly, keeping watch.
The call from Cape Canaveral was a wonderful experience for me and my family because several things. The Discovery shuttle can now take place, plus think of the millions of dollars that we've saved the taxpayers.
Orders for Predator eyes trickle in on an average day, but Jack's hoping for inflating sales now. And thanks to the shuttle, the sky's the limit. Eric Olson for NBC News.
Okay, see, she's not adapted here. Does that matter? No.
Excellent. The smiling faces, the conversations, the people seeing people that haven't seen people for so many years, it's really very, very gratifying to see that.
Weather's probably a factor there.
Yeah, 21,
sometimes you have
35, 45, 50 tons.
Yeah.
In the last 3 or 4 years, we've been down 10%. We're limited to 535 troopers, and when we are 50 or 60 down, that's definitely going to take a toll on the number of tickets that we issue. Just recently, we've hired approximately 60 new people, so hopefully that will have some impact over the next year or two.
In 1986, 2 Minneapolis residents went on a canoe trip. As they used their gear, they realized it didn't meet their needs, so they decided to start making their own.
We didn't really have any experience at it, so what we did was we saved up our money and we bought a sewing machine and just started playing around with different designs.
And when we got back, he said, I put a down payment on a sewing machine, and I said, great, do you need a business partner?
From those humble beginnings sprang Granite Gear, one of the most successful makers of outdoor gear you'll find. The company now has 300 dealers across the United States and even supplies Paragus Northwoods, who you saw 2 weeks ago in this segment. And the gear is tough. This model of gauntlet glove has been used on the last 3 American expeditions up Mount Everest. But if you like the outdoors a little closer to home, maybe you've seen this stuff sack that allows you to compress your sleeping bag to a bundle the size of a basketball. The company makes over 50 different types of outdoor gear right in the store. They employ 28 people in 2 shifts to keep up with demand, and they've just won a Blandon Foundation Joel Labovitz Award for entrepreneurial success. So like any good businessmen, Knight and Cruikshank are thinking even bigger.
And we really feel like we can expand on those markets considerably and grow our business there, but we also envision ourselves going into the European marketplace, possibly New Zealand, Australia.
It's that kind of big thinking that makes Granite Gear a profile of success. In Two Harbors, Jeff Pappas, Channel 6 News.
I think the enforcement end is working. I think this will complement that effort. In fact, enforcement is going to get much more efficient, effective, and stronger as the year goes by.
Granddaughter, right?
I was going to say, so you must be her daughter?
Tell me what up on.
We were lucky that it didn't hit the buildings, it didn't hit the house or the garage, you know, it missed that, so we were thankful that, for that, you know.
We start at 6:30 in the morning. We do, they don't.
Hi. Who are you?
Who are you? Who are you?
You're her daughter, right?
I was going to say, so you must be her daughter?
Good. Yes. Isn't he good? Running around with my headset.
Were you happy to see the hole in your daughter?
Get us on the news. Get us on the way home. Oh, they're KBJR.
When we left Duluth, we were the only area to have a send-off party in Minnesota like that. You know, when we got down there, we were the rave, we were the talk. See, after 12 years right now, I love it. It's a good thing. It just keeps making me want to come back and do more. And this event, you know, I'm looking for Toronto in '97.
You guys competed in the softball event? Yep. How did that go?
We need to put more money back into the pockets of the taxpayer so that they can go out and put it into our local economy.
Sergei Petrov, number 10 in this shot, showed a lot of promise as a hockey player. He came from St. Petersburg, Russia to Cloquet to play hockey for the Lumberjacks. Petrov graduated and became a member of the UMD Bulldogs, playing the last 2 seasons. It was in Cloquet that he met Aaron Novak, number 13 in this play. Petrov and Novak went on to play for UMD. Novak moving on to Bemidji State. But now both men are named in a criminal complaint charging them with first-degree criminal sexual conduct. Prosecutors allege that on the morning of March 26th, they raped a 19-year-old student as she slept in her dorm room. According to the victim's statement in the criminal complaint, the two were taking off her clothes. They did nothing to suggest they cared if she was willing or not. So far, Sergei Petrov has refused to be interviewed by the police, but Novak, according to the complaint, told police that they walked into the girl's room in the stadium apartments, found her drunk, put her to bed, and then left. The complaint says his story changed, though. He told police, "Get a new piece of paper. This was no sexual assault. She was totally willing." Novak then described a sexual encounter among the victim, Sergei Petrov, and himself. Petrov and Novak have been summoned to appear at the St. Louis County Jail in the next several weeks. In Duluth, Bill Lund, Channel 6 News.
The controversy just won't go away. What's actually in those barrels at the bottom of Lake Superior? Well, this week there will be another attempt to find out. Previous searches on the lake bottom yielded some barrels filled with machine parts, but some people have always felt there's something more at the bottom of the lake. The controversy was reopened this spring when this man, former submarine captain Harold Maynard, said the Geiger counter on his submarine went off during a dive 5 years ago, and the Army Corps of Engineers wouldn't take him back to the site.
When he got near that tether with that Geiger counter, it took off.
It went right up the line. You could hear it just rattling, click, 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 click.
But for some, dredging up the barrels again is dredging up a controversy that isn't there. An Army Corps of Engineers source said Maynard's claims were disproved almost as soon as they happened.
His claim that we took him to a different area is not at all founded in fact, because we had a surface buoy located, and only one. There's no basis that I know of to Mr. Maynard's claim.
That's the recent history. This time, the government's responding to a request from Jim Oberstar's office to take one more look at the 4 barrel sites. But one city official is disappointed that EPA doesn't plan to look for 3 more sites where barrels are believed to be left.
There were 7 sites that were dumped out there, so there's going to be 3 unknown sites. So if they go out there anyway and just look at the 4 and don't look for the other 3 sites, we're still going to be receiving questions about what was really dumped in the 3 missing sites.
And this time, all sides are hoping that when EPA reaches the bottom of the lake, they'll get to the bottom of the mystery. In Duluth, Jeff Papers, Channel 6 News.
On Thursday night, May 31st, a young man parked his van in the parking lot of a Hermantown movie theater. He locked it up and went in to enjoy a night at the movies. While he was gone, someone broke one of his windows and stole everything of value in the van. They even took his built-in speakers and stereo system. Most of the stolen items were in backpacks containing camping and climbing equipment. Some of those items included ropes and harnesses, clothes, climbing shoes, and a small camp stove. The total value was over $4,500. Locking the van didn't prevent the thief from seeing the valuables inside and breaking a window to get in. Do you know anyone who now has the equipment to climb mountains, or has any for sale? If you do, Crime Stoppers would like to find out who they are. We'll keep your name a secret and give you up to $1,000 for your help. Call us at 1-800-974-TIPS or 723-ENOUGH.
Actively involved with is an endowment fund for educational needs.
You make a lot of friends. Just after the trial today, I had a chance to talk with one of the kids in one of the gangs. I've known him since he was probably 3-4 years old. And he reassured me that there's not going to be any retaliation as a result of the shooting, that everybody he's talking to, he's telling, let's stop it now before it gets bad. And he reassured me that he's going to do everything in his power to see that nothing else happens.
Spent on streets and amphitheaters, and incredible how many of those kids use computer exercise. But you're right, it's going to hurt. That we've got to watch that, because if we're penny wise, we're dollar foolish. It costs about $35,000 to send a kid through the system in 1 year, each kid. So.
He was excited about it, but they were in commercial service, and nobody seemed to know. Yes, Rochester is supposed to.
Maybe official
How's things
work.
going down at the station?
Oh, good.
We got a new manager. One coming.
Yeah, one left and others. Yeah.
You got some work it over.
I haven't.
While the debate rages as to whether Monday night's incident in Superior was actually gang-related, candidates for the Duluth mayor's race have already gone a step past that. Everyone has taken stands against gangs. Mayor Gary Doty says his administration has made a start towards solving the problem, but that more work must be done.
What we need to do is to prevent the drugs and the crime and the kind of things that take place when people are idle, is we need to provide good, wholesome activities. And that's exactly what this administration has done.
City Councilor Neil Atkins disagrees. He wants specific action from the cities right now.
I want to call on the mayor to form a task force dealing with drugs and gangs in our community to get to the bottom and solve the problem. Not whisper about it, not talk about it anymore, but solve the problem. This can't go on anymore.
Former Superior Mayor and current police officer Herb Bergson says the Twin Ports don't have a gang problem, but rather a youth problem. And proper parenting is the best way to help solve it.
I think we have failed them. We forgot how to raise kids. We forgot to spend time with our kids, and just spending time with them is so important.
Meanwhile, City Councilor David Wheeler advocates taking a stand against violence is the best solution.
I think we need to say that violence is just not appropriate, particularly gun violence in our society. There's been just a massive increase and there are kids running around with guns. This is not appropriate.
One thing that all four candidates can agree on is the need to give members of gangs and youth better choices so they spend less time on the streets and, most importantly, less time here. In Duluth, Jeff Pappas, Channel 6 News.
I just told Rita, I said, we have to save the kittens. And of course, you know, everyone was in shock. The cat just got run over, and I just picked her up, brought her in the kitchen, and Sarah helped me. She went and got me the towel and the knife, and we just did it from there.
So I think that they'll really want us to come in there. We want to really equip the houses with smoke detectors, not just one or two, but get them where they're supposed to be, on every floor, by the bedrooms, some in the bedrooms. And then we're going to see how they work and see if they are maintained and see if they save a life.
The value of the animal determines the type of charge, whether it would be a misdemeanor, a Class A misdemeanor, or a felony. When you have that kind of a cost on an animal, certainly I believe that the district attorney would look at charging that out as a felony.
You don't have
funding. Call the medical examiner and say, I want you to, we can autopsy couch. Well, I thought Gary was here, and I thought that Sergeant Lear had maybe talked to him.
I think so. But if you want to watch your number, are you guys armed out here? I do. Put a gate up on my driveway.
Coming up now is Kay Dillon. She's this year's... Coming up now is Kay... Followed by the West Duluth American Legion Post 71 Commanders. Coming up now.
And then you would go up to Rescue Randy, and Rescue Randy weighs about 175 pounds, and you would drag him 75 feet, or excuse me, 100 feet back to the mark.
With volunteers and the food shelves and the on-site feeding programs, many of them, to have one organization try to spread itself out over all of that. I don't know how we can do it because the volunteers are trying to we can acquire food. For example, for every dollar donated, we can acquire $9 worth of, or 9 pounds worth of food. Now you can't do that. No individual can go into a store, no group can go into a wholesale organization and acquire food at the rate that we can acquire it through our national affiliation. At this point, it would be very important for monetary donations to the Northern Lakes Food Bank. As far as food is concerned, the shelves have a real need for dry products, those types of
for giving me this shot here. Hope you guys enjoyed. Couldn't ask for a prettier evening here. Together then, yeah, no, we'll have a good time then. My son turned 10 just the other day. He said, thanks for the ball, Dad, come on, let's play. Can you teach me to throw? I said, not today, I got lots to do. He says, that's okay. But as he walked away. This is such an incredible park here. Thanks again to Tracy for all the work and for giving me this shot here. Hope you guys enjoyed. Couldn't ask for a prettier evening here, huh? Go back into time a little bit with this song. This song transcends the generations. But there were plays to catch.
Flower contest, our grand prize winner, Raymond Picanato.
Well, my wife said she wanted a bike, and I says, well,
I want to build myself a little greenhouse. So my wife gets her bike and I got my greenhouse.
He's still working on it. I appreciate it.
Here, all the way through here, we've got, the projection was it was going to end up clear up in here, but our winds were a little better, so it was clear down in here. You guys are located right down in here. So you're real close to the fire, but it's pretty significant. It's a big one.
Firefighters are scrambling tonight, trying to stay ahead of the fire, which is roaring across thousands of acres of wilderness. On the Canadian side, helicopters are the only line of defense. The fire has raced over every roadblock, and crews can no longer work safely on the ground. Until the winds die down, the Canadians won't use ground crews. Hopes of containing the blaze will have to wait.
No, it is not realistic at this time. We did put it that if we didn't get these winds, that would have been a possibility of containment. But after we lost some of that line yesterday, and also with the forecast that we've got today, that we're going to be very busy, and we're not going to be able to continue with some of the containment line that we've had before.
On the U.S. side, some 500 firefighters are on the ground trying to keep the fire from spreading. While the fire rages, business owners on the Gunflint Trail are still trying to conduct business as usual.
Yeah, well, it's pretty much not business as usual. There's it's a lot more hectic than it would normally be, even though this is a busy time of the summer. Just trying to accommodate some of the fire crews that are in the area and trying to help them get out to the fire, and then also trying to reroute groups that have got trips scheduled that still want to come up.
For now, firefighters are keeping their eyes to the skies. Helicopters equipped with huge buckets are dumping water on the front lines, hoping to slow the fire's progress. But until the wind slows down, it'll be tough going.
We're kind of winging it right now there. We've always discussed on some basis before where fires have been on the border, and we've sort of helped each other out and stuff. But this is the first time I think that we're actually going to go hand in hand and work together in a joint effort there.
As soon as it's safe, ground crews will head back to the front lines to try to stop one of the largest forest fires to hit the Midwest in a decade. On the Gunflint Trail, Derek Hines, Channel 6 News.
Hit this line here, went over, it's taking this part out here, it's moving clear across here, all the way through here. We've got, the projection was it was going to end.
There are few things that compare with the violent forces of nature. This video was shot by KBJR photographer Rich Powell, who managed to reach Sag Falls by boat this afternoon. Multiply these blackened images of forest and clearings tenfold, and you will still not be able to grasp the destructive force of the fire now ripping its way through the BWCA. The Sag fire has destroyed nearly 13,000 acres at the end of the Gunflint Trail. It continues to test the mettle of over 500 trained firefighters, Americans and Canadians working side by side to contain the worst fire in the Northland in a decade.
This is a combined effort on a fire. The fire doesn't respect national boundaries. The fire is burning, and the team is going to be working.
Are you with it?
Water bombers and helicopters are offering backup to the firefighters. It's hoped that this international teamwork will whip back the SAG fire on the American side of the border. The goal is to contain that portion of the blaze yet tonight.
As of last night, it was 90% contained, and if we have a good day of working hard, then we should be able to contain it this evening.
Hole 67. Bingo! We have a bingo.
And Lisa Potney from Virginia,
and 4 moms. And then Lisa will have about 10 women.
Well, it makes me feel like I'm just, one of the grown-ups. I mean, it doesn't really matter what age you are, just so long as you're going.
Who's with AAUW. And I think there's one other person, I can't remember, websites, web pages. And we invite people to check in and see how we're doing. And we'll be sending journal entries. We're going to be doing some radio, and we're making a video while we're there.
It's enough to really make you blow your cool. You're trying to make a quick trip through downtown, but you're having to weave in and out of lanes of traffic to avoid delivery trucks stopped in the middle of the street.
That's kind of a pain in the butt, especially on First Street. When I come over to the bank, I notice it a lot.
Do you see it as a problem?
I can see it in certain areas, yeah. This one way is a 2-lane street, so there's room for traffic to get around me.
Yes, there is another lane here on First Street, but often you have to wait a considerable amount of time before traffic flow allows you in. And this double parking is illegal.
To block a lane of traffic, double parking is illegal.
I didn't know that. No, I did not know. I wasn't aware with that. It was illegal, no.
We wondered if everyone thought it was legal to double park, blocking a lane of traffic for an extended period of time.
Block a whole lane?
No,
Why
no
not?
way. I'd get a ticket.
I actually got a $20 ticket for doing that once.
No.
Why not?
No, it's not safe.
The truckers we talked with said they thought trucks should have special parking privileges beyond loading zones because they were providing an essential service, even if it causes a traffic hazard.
You think a situation like this could be dangerous for other motorists?
If they don't handle it with caution, yes.
But that caution can lead to problems of its own.
I was coming down on the Superior Street here, and I looked down there, and there was a large delivery truck parked blocking a whole lane. And I couldn't see around it, so I kind of eased out to try to get into the lane, and the person behind me thought that I had accelerated onto Superior Street, and they smacked me from behind.
Police say they tend to ignore the illegality of double-parked delivery trucks because in Duluth, truckers have few options. We'll look into that tomorrow. In Duluth, Barbara Riles, Channel 6 News.
There's already been one civil matter that's been solved this morning, and there's guys talking to job service that are now looking at possibilities of jobs when they leave here. So, we've been in this now for 2 hours this morning, and that's what we've accomplished already, and the day's just getting started.
This is just, I don't know, pride is not a good word to use here, knowing you, but accomplishment, feeling that you're helping out your fellow veterans.
Learn more about the quality of life issues. I think we at UW Superior can play a very important... Oh, I think I'll be an awfully strong advocate for UW Superior, and you'll...
Catherine's strong support through Mike Green.
This experience?
No, I'm just enjoying what I do now. But the opportunity, when the president of the system calls and asks you to do something, I was very honored to be asked to do. And I do think I have some skills that can be helpful in the process.
Drivers beware,
school kids are back in full force. In Superior, the police department is making sure those kids stay safe. The addition of the new Great Lakes Elementary School along 28th Street means more young children will be in the area.
We really need to get the people to be conscientious about the school and the children so that they will willingly drive slower and be safe in the area even when the police are not present.
But at least for the next week, the police will be present. The department is beefing up patrols in the area to enforce new changes in the speed limit. The overall limit has been reduced from 35 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. That limit is reduced further to 15 miles per hour in front of the building during school hours.
Sergeant Jarvis says the department will be generous with motorists as they enforce these new laws. He says to use the old speed limit as a guideline to getting a ticket. Driving 10 to 15 miles per hour over the old speed limit will ensure a citation. Driving 10 to 15 miles per hour over the new speed limit will yield a warning, at least for now.
And some speeders can't complain about that.
I think it's a good idea with the kids at school.
Yeah.
I'm glad that she did it.
So now you'll know better to...
Yes, I will. And I thank her for just giving me a warning ticket, too.
So far, officers have pulled over nearly 70 speeders, with some speeds above 50 miles per hour. But Jarvis says he thinks the plan is working.
We've already seen a reduction in the average speed here. The officers working this morning said that the speeds are lower today than they were yesterday.
In Superior, Ann Carroll, Channel 6 News.
Of all the people guaranteed to vote in elections, you can put candidates right at the top of the list. And the Duluth mayoral hopefuls got their civic responsibility taken care of bright and early today. At 7:30 this morning, David Wheeler was casting his ballot at Chester Park United Methodist Church, and he wasn't the least bit nervous.
Against him. The shooting occurred here at this house some 50 miles northwest of Grand Rapids, and even now, 2 days after the shooting, investigators are still here looking for evidence. Investigators emerged from the house about 1 o'clock today carrying bags of evidence. However, Itasca County Sheriff Pat Maduri is saying very little about the incident other than describing the scene when sheriff's deputies got there.
There was a female that was deceased at the scene here, and then a male had been shot in the leg. He was transported to a local hospital, and at that point we conducted our investigation. The victim was Laura Clement, and the other victim was Warner Campbell.
The 34-year-old Laura Clement was from rural Mizpah, Minnesota. An autopsy is being performed today by the Ramsey County Medical Examiner. Meanwhile, this is not the first time law enforcement was involved with this couple before. Campbell, a former Chicago police officer, was acquitted of attempted murder charges for allegedly shooting Clement last year. His attorney argued self-defense because Clement was holding a scissors when she was shot. Meantime, County Attorney John Muhar has said little about the case, saying it's not clear yet if charges will be filed. Bill Lund, Channel 6 News.
How long ago did we do this? 30 years and 125 pounds ago. We left right here. Of course, this time you got your son with you.
We've done quite well. What we're doing is rowing to raise money for the Madeline Island Nursery School. The nursery school has about $25,000 annual budget, and they need to raise about half of that. So we hope to help them raise a good part of that fundraising money.
We're really privileged to have a couple of fine rowing boats here from the gentleman in Schwamigan Boat Works in Bayfield has donated the use of this boat.
Seemed like a pretty good cause, and it's a long distance, so he had to have a boat that rows fairly easily.
Back in 1965, when we were 13 years old, it was kind of a Huck Finn, Tom Sawyer type of thing. We just decided to row boats. So we took off from the beach right over here, and we rowed around. It took 3 days, 2 nights, 17 hours of rowing, just for fun. So Evan said, geez, you know, it was 30 years ago we did that. Let's do that again. Evan wanted to do it because we did it 30 years ago. I wanted to do it to raise money for the Island Nursery, but Evan's child is in the nursery too, and he's very interested in getting this done. It's unlikely that we'll do it all in one day. Besides, we want to have a little fun when we camp out tonight.
You know, I figure it's Labor Day, it's Monday, I'm going to roll into work, nobody's going to be here, and I'm going to be fine. So I roll out of bed, I don't comb my hair, and I've got a camera guy from Channel 6 here taking footage of me. Thanks! 77 at KQ. It's a classic 70s weekend. Simon and Garfunkel, KQ 95. That's right, I forgot about that. Great day, huh? Yeah, great.
That guy looks like me, except
David Wheeler wants to consolidate parts of the Duluth City and St. Louis County government. The concept is called metropolitan government, and he's made it his key issue from the start of the campaign.
I have been the only candidate that has had the courage to propose to change government. I propose that we go to a unified metropolitan government.
But how is his message being received? Most polls show Wheeler running fourth in the race. His own polls show him third and gaining, but he says getting a message across can be difficult when the media are more interested in personalities.
There have been times when it's been a bit frustrating because I think the media has wanted to focus on personalities and a grudge match between a former mayor and a sitting mayor. I don't think that is helpful for talking about the future of Duluth. It's not an issue of a grudge match.
But Wheeler himself hasn't been shy about jumping into conflict. He's been very direct, especially with Mayor Doty.
You have a very difficult time dealing with people who disagree with you, and I think it's very important that we be respectful and have an opportunity to talk with people who have differences with us.
But does that direct style help or hurt the candidate? Wheeler says the direct approach is something that voters want to hear.
I think they're tired of hearing political candidates say exactly what they want to hear. It's much better to say, look, this is what I see the problems are, this is where we need to go, let's work together to get there.
Wheeler says he wants an issues-oriented campaign and says if he reaches the general election, that's what voters will get. That's his most important message. In Duluth, Jeff Pappas, Channel 6 News.
Office would be on the first floor because I know a lot of you.
Herb Bergson has made children a priority issue in his campaign. Throughout the early election race, kids and street repair have been issues he's hammered on.
I want our kids like David and your children and grandchildren to be able to afford to live here and work here. I want the streets to be clean. I want the streets to be drivable.
So far, that message seems to be popular. Bergson has grabbed the role of frontrunner and has run with it.
To my knowledge, there have been 12 polls, and our team has been first in all 12. We're getting something across. But what I expect, unfortunately, it isn't always getting your message across that wins or loses a campaign.
Bergson says he expects to be a target and has already been one this week as David Wheeler attacked the timing of filing his campaign finance reports. Getting a message across is one thing. Having it drowned out is quite another.
We'll see when it resorts to below-the-belt politics. And it's happened a great deal behind the scenes, and I'm expecting it to be right out front very, very soon.
There's another message in the Bergson campaign, according to a political observer. Issues aside, Bergson quickly asserted himself in an important way.
What he's trying to do is monopolize the opposition to Doty. He becomes the main opponent to Doty, and he has to worry about, and all of them have to worry about the primary first, that's what he's got to do, and he's doing it right now.
If polls are to be believed, the two mayors will square off in November, and the message battle will begin for real. In Duluth, Jeff Pappas, Channel 6 News.
I'm feeling positively. I think that I have a good record, and I believe that the voters are aware of that, and I'm believing that they'll be out there supporting me at the end.
It's been just wonderful, and the people have been really positive and open for their suggestions, and I've learned a great deal.
Of all the people guaranteed to vote in elections, you can put candidates right at the top of the list. And the Duluth mayoral hopefuls got their civic responsibility taken care of bright and early today. At 7:30 this morning, David Wheeler was casting his ballot at Chester Park United Methodist Church, and he wasn't the least bit nervous.
I'm feeling just great. Had a good night's sleep last night. I think what's going to be interesting is we're going to see a high voter turnout, I believe. I heard last night they're talking about 20,000, which is well over the 16,000 plus last time.
Fellow councilor Neil Atkins was feeling good today as well. As he cast his ballot at Harrison Community Center this morning, his only worry was the same as that of most candidates.
You never have knocked on enough doors unless you've knocked on all the doors in town. And obviously there's nobody that's been able to do that in the primary.
So now all that's left for the candidates to do is to sit and wait.
It's a catch-22 in Ashland. The state says it's funding property tax relief for schools, but at the same time, they're freezing funding to cities like Ashland.
What that really means is the cities are becoming more and more dependent on property taxes, and many people will not see the property tax relief that they are being promised by the state.
Cuts in state funding don't actually kick in until the budget year, 1997. And what that will mean for the city of Ashland is no cost of living increase. What that could mean for Ashland residents is a property tax increase.
Property taxes could be increased, yes, you know, and it is going to depend on what these people want in the community. You know, do you want your police and fire protection? Do you want your police protection, your garbage pickup?
In Ashland, property taxes account for only about 19% of the city's operating budget. For the rest, the city depends on state funding. The city annually gets an increase of about 3% per year from the state, but now that cost of living increase is gone. Murphy says Ashland residents have got to be prepared for some changes.
I can tell them that I think we have some very difficult choices to make over the next couple of months and perhaps couple of years, and there are no easy solutions to many of those problems. But we're going to have to be creative and work together to try to determine what services we'll provide and how much we're willing to pay for those services.
The City Council plans to discuss how to deal with the projected shortfall during budget sessions in the next month. In Ashland, Bill Lund, Channel 6 News.
She smiles and she coos and she cries. She's a normal baby.
But little Adriana didn't have a normal beginning. Abandoned in a mall, surgery at less than a week, and almost a full month in the hospital could be considered traumatic. But you can't see the strain when you gaze at the tiny baby girl sleeping peacefully in her foster mom's arms.
We're thrilled. We love her. Oh, looky here. Hey, Ada Boo. Ada Boo Boo.
Betty and Ron have been foster parents in Superior for almost 15 years. They've loved and cared for more than 50 children.
Well, I guess this size, you can't turn them away.
But none has attracted the attention of little Adriana. Ron and Betty say they can't believe the outpouring of love they've seen from the Northland.
It has been overwhelming that people are supportive and really care. And we've appreciated all the gifts she has. She really has a lot.
Adriana is doing well, but still has some special medical needs. When she's strong enough, she'll undergo more surgery to correct ongoing bowel problems. But Ron and Betty have been told after that operation, Adriana will be completely well and healthy.
She loves to be held. If she's awake and fussy, she wants to be held, and she's fine, and I don't have a problem with that.
Ron and Betty have gathered quite a lot of memorabilia from Adriana's first month.
They will all be compiled into a scrapbook that will go with her. Her adoptive family can give it to her or whatever they choose to do.
Adriana will stay with Ron and Betty for up to 6 months. There's a legal waiting period when a baby's parents can't be found. The couple is prepared for the day Adriana will leave them and move in with her adoptive family.
And we have children of our own and grandchildren, and I don't have that kind of a problem letting go because there's too many people that want a baby.
Thousands of calls have poured in from around the country. Social service workers say they'll have no trouble finding a loving home for the Northland's baby. In Superior, Barbara Riles, Channel 6 News.
It'll employ many people up there, and I'd like to see it go through.
And so we're interested in everything from outdoor ethics, how we hunt ethically, how we fish ethically, to promoting hunting and fishing, wildlife management, and conservation.
Street and cleaning that up. And we've conducted a retention survey of about 260 businesses.
Police standpoint, the old West End community, Lincoln Park neighborhood has been a very special place for all of us.
Streetscape upgrading, building development, and other aesthetic and beautification projects, as well as image marketing and business and customer promotion. And whereas this business area, extending the length of Garfield Avenue and reaching west to Carlton Street, once having been revitalized as stated, shall be renamed. Now therefore I, Gary L. Doty, Mayor of the City of Duluth, do hereby proclaim that the West End business area shall hence
haymakers, and we'll be right back after
You wouldn't
this
expect
short
Duluth,
message.
Minnesota to be the home of a country music radio show.
Molly, welcome to Country Classic Legends. It's a pleasure to have you on this show today.
Thanks, Frank.
But
And
from a
Molly,
cramped
you're
studio
from
in West
the,
Duluth, Frank Dell is bringing the
area,
voices
and
of
I
some of
understand
country's
that you,
legendary performers
born and raised-
to a new generation of listeners.
There is definitely a market for this music. You can't forget the foundation of country music, and there just seems to be a resurgence.
Frank Dell is well known around Nashville. He got his start in radio at WKLK in Cloquet. After hosting a show there and recording an album in Nashville, he got a big break.
I started talking because I was looking for musicians, and they said, well, we've got the musicians for you. And lo and behold, it was Conway Twitty and the Twitty Birds.
While performing with Twitty, Dell got a chance to meet some of the legendary country stars of the time, like Eddie Arnold and Merle Haggard. And just a few years ago, he hit upon an idea for a new show.
A thought went through my mind. A lot of the older country artists, you weren't getting as much airplay. You know, what's happened to these guys? So I kicked it around and I thought, well, maybe the fans out there would like to know what has happened to these country legends.
Dell's connections make him a natural to host the radio show. One phone call, and he's got an interview.
So I got on the phone and started calling the boys up. And they were all willing and ready to do it and says, let's go for it.
He records some of the interviews in Nashville and others right here in Duluth for a radio show being played on country stations across the Midwest. For new country fans, names like Marvin Rainwater, Dave Dudley, and Little Jimmy Dickens may not be too familiar, but Dell says he feels a responsibility to bring the founders of country to a new audience.
It's giving the fans out there possibly could be the final time to hear some of these artists, and they're remembered by the tunes that they recorded over the years, and yeah, it's really exciting for me, and I feel the urgency. I really, really do.
Country radio station programmers say Frank Dell has hit upon an idea that can broaden their base of listeners.
There needs to be the exposure of the older, legendary country music to today's young country listener, because it's where it all began.
And country artists from the Midwest say the show proves that just because you're from the Northland doesn't mean you can't have an impact on the national scene.
Frank's doing something that no one else has done up here, and sometimes you're least recognized in your home turf, which
Ain't that the truth?
we know too. I mean,
Well, that's all right.
you need to have to go someplace else and establish yourself.
Dell is often on the
I
road,
never
shuttling
sang
between
for years.
Duluth,
I was a
Nashville, and
backup
Branson,
musician,
Missouri, where he hopes to start up a country music theater in museum. But for now, he's happy giving country classic legends another shot on the radio.
It just seems like I've kind of found a niche, you know, and the cooperation from these the people in the industry, the traditional people, is just amazing to me. I'm very, very overwhelmed, really.
In Duluth, Derek Hines, Channel 6 News.
We just had a power outage up here. MP&L lost a feeder cable, and so we just got our generator up here, got it hooked up, and we're back online, and we'll keep it running until MP&L gets their power repaired.
So where do you think we are, Captain General? We have landed in the Indies, my friend. My title is now Admiral of the Ocean Sea.
It's safe to say that a lot of the luster has come off the voyage of Christopher Columbus. In recent years, the explorer has been attacked for everything from discovering a land where there were already people to subjugation of the area's indigent peoples.
The change in popular thinking about Columbus has forced a curriculum change here in the public schools, but still special care is being taken not to judge a 15th century man by 20th century standards.
The Duluth School District changed its curriculum in this area 3 years ago to reflect the concerns of Native Americans. Gail Frankowiak teaches American history at Woodland Junior High and wants her students to evaluate Columbus by strict parameters.
What kind of person he was, how hard he had to work to get where he was, and then what happened as a result of him reaching San Salvador.
In higher education, educators' goals are different. Robert Paulus heads the Department of Indian Studies at UMD. He says students want to make up their own minds.
They are trying to understand what this is really about. And of course, they've been pretty well brainwashed from the time they were little.
But not everyone is willing to write off Columbus that easily. Paulus says white historians tend to be tougher on Columbus than Native historians, but offers a different perspective on the transatlantic voyage.
Columbus did not discover a new world. He established contact between two worlds, both already old.
Paulus says that even revisionists will be forced to admit that in some areas Columbus was ahead of his time as they try to change how children learn about his accomplishments. In Duluth, Jeff Pappas, Channel 6 News.
So what happened was a lot of people got...
The reason why it's important is we're trying to educate the students at a young age to get them involved in not only donating blood, but also sponsoring a blood drive at their school.
Hi, how are ya? Good. Oh, hi, Jen. He belongs in Hollywood. Okay. He's 9. Yeah, the blood disorder stops his growth. That blood is used daily to treat patients. Okay. Do you need to get any questions? Okay. He's 9. Yeah, the blood disorder stops his growth. My sister Maggie is 3.
You'll have pumpkins. We'd have pumpkins.
It's that time of year again, time to get your ghosts, goblins, and pumpkins ready for Halloween. But there are a few things to look for when picking out the perfect pumpkin for your front step.
Well, the best thing as far as for a pumpkin that it has a good stem, most of all. And the color is bright orange. It's not a pale or so that it looks sick or so. And a good bottom and good shape all the way around. And when you got something like that, you got a nice carving pumpkin.
This year's pumpkin harvest in the Northland has been a successful one. Farmers are crediting our hot and wet summer for this year's harvest. Gordy's Farm Market in Hermantown is all stocked up for jack-o'-lantern carvers of all ages.
I made an estimate last week on how many we had. That was about a week or so ago. That was, we had 1,500 pumpkins at that time. We've went through a few hundred since then. I think we're down to about 1,000, something like that. And we'll be getting more pumpkins in.
But Northland farmers say there is something unique about this year's pumpkin crop. Many Northland farmers are shipping much of their crops south. More pumpkins are needed in the southern part of the state due to their cooler and drier summer. But never fear, even with a successful crop here in the Northland, Boss says he's keeping in mind what Halloween is all about.
I don't care what price anybody else has got. And I heard they were quite high in places and as much as 30 cents a pound. And that takes a lot of your fun. The Halloween, for the children to enjoy themselves, so I'm going to go ahead and sell the ones I've got. Reasonable, treat the public right. I don't care if I run out or not.
So as those ghosts and goblins invade your neighborhood this Halloween, make sure you've got a perfect pumpkin awaiting their arrival. In Duluth, Ann Carroll, Channel 6 News.
This appeal arises from an incident in Hutchinson, Minnesota, where appellant accidentally, while intoxicated on drugs, shot a police officer following a shoplifting incident.
As the attorneys made their arguments to the Minnesota Supreme Court, hundreds of students listened and learned about how the highest court in the state does business.
The accused points a gun almost point blank at the head of a police officer and pulls the trigger. I don't believe that's culpable negligence.
But the case the Supreme Court is hearing today doesn't have any ties to the Northland. It's out of Hutchinson, Minnesota, a convicted cop killer asking for a new trial. What is significant to the hundreds of onlookers today is that the highest court in the state has come this far. It's a 3.5 to 4 hour drive from the Twin Cities to the courthouse here in Virginia. And yes, most of the justices did drive their own car. But why? Well, most of them say they don't want to lose touch with the people of the state of Minnesota.
You see us here, we just look like regular people. We are. We put on our robes. The thing that's important about the Supreme Court is not the individuals. We put on our robes, we become the institution.
After the hearing, justices answered questions of the press and the public. One thing justices were interested in learning is what people's impressions are of the justice system, something they say has drastically changed since the O.J. trial.
Every single day in every courthouse in the state, there's cases routinely going through and justice is being done. And we forget. I mean, that really is a distortion, a case that takes a year.
Any Vikings fan knows this justice, who, like all of the other justices on the court, surprised the crowd with a good sense of humor, putting students at ease, saying he doesn't like to read long legal documents.
But when it comes to briefs, and particularly long briefs, which don't particularly take me anywhere, I have a short pain threshold.
Minnesota Supreme Court plans to hold more hearings like this one around the state. In Virginia, Bill Lund, Channel 6 News.
Area out here. In 1992, we put $3.7 million in. The reality is that there isn't enough money to be able to do that, to be able to staff every single facility nowadays.
And I believe they've deteriorated because of the lack of leadership from the city's end. There's people out there that want to help. They need to be thanked, and they need to be told that they're needed.
Library hours, police patrol, and other essentials. The mayor recommends the salaries to the city council, as well as the
tax that you need to pay some of these people well in order to lure the best type of quality administration.
Every single department is increasing at double-digit rates, and it cannot be explained as mere interdepartmental budget shuffling. It is time to bring our city administration and its expense account in line with the reality of the rest of us face.
$1,238,000. Deceptive.
He's playing a game of deception. Herb Bergson is being unfair. He's being unfair not only to me, but he's being unfair to the public, and he's doing a disservice to the people of the city to be putting together figures like this.
You have an administrative assistant making $40,000 to $50,000 who are supervising people who make $1,000 a year. That comes from revenue from the parking there. So it's not like we're adding new costs. And go ahead.
Oh, how much would you have a number then? In Medicare cuts. So it seems to me that low and moderate income people are going to get hit with a double whammy, both on Medicare and by seeing their taxes go up because of the loss of the earned income tax credit in order to pay for a $19,000 tax cut for somebody making $350,000 a year. And he said that it would not be possible to finance their tax package. We're longer going to have the guarantee of being able to have somebody in their family covered under Medicaid if they go to a nursing home, because there won't be any more. A month ago, he was the Senate chairman of the committee handling this, and he said that it would not be possible.
There was no power in the building or any ignition source, so we're assuming that a human being had to start it. Whether it was accidental or arson, we're not sure of quite yet.
Deer hunters were out in full force this morning, hoping to cross paths with a trophy deer. But while everyone tried hard, some didn't see any deer or tracks at all.
Well, there's enough there for tracking. I mean, if you can see them moving around a little bit in the area. I've seen a few tracks. I haven't seen any deer on the way. On the way up here, I've seen a couple. But since I've been out in the woods here, nothing. It's pretty crunchy.
It's a little noisy. The ground is real noisy, so you can't sneak up on them or come up on them at all.
The cold weather and the small amount of snow discouraged some, but a few hunters did have success. 12 deer were registered by 2 o'clock at Chelstrom's near Duluth. The store owner says that number could change when it gets dark.
Count seems a little bit down from other years for this early, but we'll see what happens. DNR says it's up, so we're expecting more.
Although area hunters didn't have much luck on this opening day, DNR officials say that the deer population is up. But don't worry yet, hunters. There's still plenty of time to bag that 30-point buck. On the trail for big game, Gina Stapleton, Channel 6 News.
Will of the people, and that has been their thoughts since the charter was made. Area of concern was talking about a 7/9 vote. Is that enough? And
Are you afraid there's going to be?
is there something about the spending?
I'm fearful of having a simple majority of a council decide, let's spend it now for short-term gains and not think of our children.
Streets and our sewers and other things, because many political people, profits are probably something that's not going to go on ad infinitum. And we may have some other sources of revenue, and we want to encourage others. I believe the income from that to go to a park. And this is I think this is a really positive development. We also don't want to
You go on.
I think the kids are making their own decisions. And if they ask for help, they get it, but otherwise they're pretty much doing their own thing.
And your turnout's been pretty heavy here so far.
Very nice, excellent, in fact, for the hour of the day. Because we were here at 6:30 and the polls opened at 7, and there were children here at 7.
What I want to do is I want the people in this community, I want all the people to be happy with what we're doing. I know that's impossible, but we want to do the best we can at that.
I don't know what happens for me now, but I can tell you tomorrow, my new life, I'm going to go see my friend Willard Munger. And I offered 2 months ago to run his sign campaign or run his fundraising committee or something. I don't know who these people in print media are in this town. I don't think they could quote Dr. Seuss, for God's sake, with green eggs and ham in front of them. Here's the best. Congratulations on winning your...
Well, we'll be suing for some of the issues that we need to understand, and the public needs to understand, is that this bus, route number 11, is specifically, and I need to accent that, is all Indian kids are on this bus. Now, why is that happening in the Northland? In the South, it doesn't happen no more.
At the current level.
of service, 20 beds for, what is it, 5 counties. And it's just not enough. And every week I have to release juveniles from the detention center that should not be out on the street. So we need it, and the message there is that we have a problem.
And that problem is juvenile crime. In the last several months alone, Judge Martin has seen Northland juveniles as young as 9 years old involved in violent crimes ranging from armed robbery to sexual assault. Because of increasing crimes like these, the Arrowhead Juvenile Center in Duluth will be expanding their facility from 20 beds to 48 beds.
The other 24 beds that will be up within, hopefully by next fall of '96, will be used for short-term consequences, violations of probations, and also for the longer-term youth that's in for a more serious crime.
Officials say the facility is always full and has been since its opening in 1972. They say they often have to turn away offenders, not dealing with them immediately. They often release many youths that haven't been properly rehabilitated in order to get more serious offenders in the center. But the expansion should change that. Here at the Arrowhead Center, juveniles as young as 10 years old are serving time. Officials say they see as many as 600 youths a year. 50% of those are repeat offenders. It's because of those numbers that this expansion is more than just structural.
I said if we deal with them immediately, and if we have a program ready and within their community setting, we're hopeful that we'll integrate better into the community. And with our concept of using restorative justice, we're hoping to get the community more involved.
And according to Judge Martin, that is the right solution.
It's almost as important as a healthy family backup. You need a community that's a safe place that provides accessible, safe activities for kids.
The $3 million addition to the Arrowhead facility will begin next fall. In Duluth, Ann Carroll, Channel 6 News.
Years ago, we moved here from the cities. And we found this area because it was perfect. It's on a dead-end street. We're close to everything, but we still have bears in the backyard and deer here, and it feels like we're in the country. And we thought that this was a reasonably safe neighborhood from commercialism.
Ann Carter is against the Miller Hill Mall expansion. She lives in the Duluth Heights neighborhood and moved from the Twin Cities to enjoy country life in the city with her family. But now the mall and its traffic could be in her backyard. Carter and her neighbors don't want the mall because their property values will drop. Also, traffic around the mall and in their neighborhood would increase, and street improvements would have to be made. There are also environmental concerns, including Miller Creek and the tree buffer between the mall and their homes. But developers say the mall expansion would mean more taxes for the city, new stores could mean more jobs, and Duluth would attract more spending shoppers. But the neighbors don't care.
Okay, we don't want it, definitely. It'll cause a lot of noise, a lot of traffic. We like the neighborhood as is. And of course, the value of our home will go down, and we just want it to stay the way it is.
Is that kind of the feeling with everyone in the neighborhood?
I think so, yes.
Do you feel like there's anything you can do to stop?
Well, I don't know. It doesn't really seem like we like.
Yesterday we did that float and the Maurice's float, and we did this one. We got 2 done, basically. We didn't quite finish this one, but we got most of it. We were cranking quite a bit.